This is Ben from GoatWhore, and you're watching The Offering.
So how was the show tonight? It was awesome. So
Tour's been really great. It's awesome. Touring with Satyricon, you know, I was listening to them for a long time, all the way back when I was a kid. I actually saw them in Europe when they toured for Rebel Extravaganza. So it's kind of unique that we're like doing this now. I mean, the unique thing is GoatWhore has done a lot of we do a lot of touring in the U.S. in general, but sometimes we have toured with unique bands like Satyricon, Emperor, Venom Inc., Celtic Frost, you know, and it's cool that it's kind of full circle of bands that have influenced us when we were younger. And now at this point, we're kind of touring with these bands. So, but the shows have been awesome. I mean, they play like 2 hours every night, and they fucking put on a hell of a show.
yeah.
So it's fucking really cool.
And you already have more tours scheduled.
Yeah, we have always a lot of tours scheduled.
So
Yeah,
how
but
you
not
do it?
really. That's like in the fall. So, well, okay, so at the end of July into August, we go to Europe to do some festival stuff, and then off-day shows with like Dying Fetus, Toxic Holocaust, Carnifex, Venom Prison. And then after we do all that, we come back home, and we have that tour with Arch Enemy in the fall. You know, so, yeah, the cycle kind of keeps
So
going.
how you do it? How you prepare for all these tours? What's the secret?
I don't think there's a secret. I just think, you know, I was explaining to somebody earlier too, like the difference between European bands and American bands. It's like when you were in, this isn't anything like putting anybody down on either end, but I think definitely as you come up as an American band, it's harder than when you come up as a European band sometimes. Because when you tour Europe, everybody, like, the metal scene is so, like, tight-knit, and everybody, like, you play these venues and you get fed well and everything, and then when you come do the U.S., it's like, they're just like, yeah, okay, you get these waters, you get this, you know. But when you grow up touring as an American band, being such a huge country, you adapt to it and you get used to it. So when you go to Europe, you're like, wow, shit, they're like, they feed us, they give us this, you know. But then when a European band finally comes to the U.S. and they realize how things are kind of handed out here, they're like, fuck, we're so used to this. But so it's like kind of like it crosses paths in a certain sort of weird way, you know. It's not a bad thing. Everybody's got their own element and how they're brought up as a band and everything like that. I'm just, you know, just from touring, I kind of see that aspect to it, you know. I mean, dude, Europe, they treat bands really fucking good, you know. It's like you roll into places and you get like a meal that you never even get at home, you know. So you're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
So good thing you're going back to Europe.
Huh?
Good that you're going back to
Well,
Europe.
yeah. I mean, well,
there
also
you go.
too, I think we tour so much in the U.S. I think we need to focus on Europe a little more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and some people believe like because you're doing so well in the States that you're doing the same in Europe, and it's not always like that. It's separate markets. Even around the world, wherever you go, it's separate markets. So just because the impact of what you did here, it won't be the same over here. So you have to kind of duplicate what you've done in this spot again in another spot. And it's different for every band. Some bands like take off immediately. Some bands it's a slow grade, you know. So you just do it. And it goes back to the element of when you started a band and you got in a band, you did it because you really liked the music. You liked what you were doing. So that's where you kind of keep your head straight and you keep it in that mindset of like, when you go to Europe and you're kind of like starting over in a sense, you don't let it affect you because you realize, well, this is what I wanted to do and we have to do it in this fashion.
Let's talk a bit about your latest album, Vengeful Ascension.
Okay.
I was working on this album for you.
It's the regular progression of GoatWhore. You know, it's definitely like how we evolve. We don't really take huge steps when we write, like take drastic jumps and do different things, but we do take little tiny things and we evolve in those elements. And also I think throughout our records we have little elements through all of those that come out in the record we do after it as well. So I really enjoy the record a lot, and I really think it's definitely a growth for GoatWhore and like what we're doing as a band, and I think it's very vital and very important. But I think it has some elements that some people might not be familiar with that are used to what GoatWhore has done in the past, you know. So everything, you just kind of got to evolve with it and grow. I mean, when I was a kid and I was listening to bands like Paradise Lost and, you know, Entombed and things, you saw the progression and how things flowed, and, you know, people change their mind. People get into different things. Their influences changes as they go along. You know, like some people will be like, oh, I wish Slayer would make them another Rain in Blood. And it's just like, dude, that was a moment in time when they did that. They were into something and they did something, and then they moved on and they did South of Heaven and they, you know, everything after that. So every element is a point in time when a musician is influenced by certain things and they do it. They're not sitting there going, we did this record, everybody loves this record, and we have to duplicate it again. You know, it's like, it's not going to happen like that. Everybody's different because we all are influenced as time goes on in a different way. We go back to things sometimes, and then sometimes we listen to newer things that come out. So it's like sometimes when we're listening to stuff, we go back to old like Judas Priest and shit like that. And then sometimes we stop and we look what's coming out now, because there's a lot of young bands that come out and they're fucking awesome, because you still need a younger band out there, you know, holding the flag and moving everything forward within the metal scene. You can't cut it off. You can't sever it. You know, everybody's always talking about, oh, the metal scene's going to die, but it's not going to die unless you sever off these younger bands that are trying to keep the flag going forward. So you kind of go back and forth between all of it, and you know, it influences you, whether it's subconscious or it's not subconscious. You kind of get influenced by all the different aspects, from older shit to newer shit.
So did you have a precise idea of how you wanted this album to sound when you started writing?
We do and we don't, because I feel like sometimes when you lock yourself into a grid, then you paint yourself into a corner. And also with this record, we went a different approach, because the records before we did with Eric Rutan, okay? And this time we went with Jared Pritchard, who he like tours with us sometimes and does sound and everything. And he was familiar with us in a live sense. And sometimes you want to project that in a different sort of way. You know, like some bands want to project how they are as a live band a little bit more. And being an engineer in a live setting and how it comes out of a PA rather than an engineer that just does a lot of studio stuff is different variations. So we wanted that impact of like his ears knowing how we come out of a PA and try to apply that to a record as well. So I think just sometimes you have to take the jump to do something different. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to take that risk sometimes. You know, and there was no ill will with Eric Rutan. We did really good records with Eric. Right. You know, it was just something that we decided to just take a different jump at the time and do something a little different.
And did you have a particular idea about the lyrics for this album?
Yeah, I mean, I write a lot of stuff all the time, and it just kind of mixes and blends. Like, there's a lot of different things I read and just aspects of like about life, and I just kind of intertwine it all. So I'm not definitely like, some of it's not like one set scope, but then I build off of a lot of unique different little ideas.
And what is your favorite song from this album to perform live?
I like the favorite song question.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard because when you do a record, any record,
right,
like when people say, well, what's your favorite song to do in a set? It's hard because every song is unique in its own fashion. And I'm sure it's the same for every band. Every song has its own element in the way it comes across. So, like, picking one is kind of hard. It's almost like, so I heard somebody say once, it's like, you have 5 kids. It's like, you pick your favorite child. It's like, how do you do that when you have like 5 kids? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not possible. So it's really hard. And like, I think it's, when we play live, that's what's so unique, because every song is like an individual aspect of what GoatWhore has been throughout the years. And that's what, like, it revigorates through the set. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we're playing this, but then we're playing something from a record we did like 8 years ago. And it constantly changes through the set, so it keeps that like adrenaline going and that feeling going throughout a set. So I don't have one specific one. Like every one, at points I come to when I'm like, I really like this song, and then we're doing the set, I'm like, yeah, but I like this one too. And I like this one because it has this part to it. So I can't solidly lock it down to one because each one has its own element that, you know, I fuel off of.
So it would be fun to play the entire album.
Oh, it would be.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
In the future.
Yeah.
At this point of your career, it's been like 20 years basically. What do you enjoy most about being a musician?
I think it's just the traveling and meeting new people and realizing that there's people all around when you play places that have been into your stuff and know what you're doing and like how it impacts them. It's really unique that music's such a strong thing, and then when you travel around and you play places and people come up to you in other countries and they tell you like what your music has done for them, it's like it's I don't know, it's kind of touching in certain ways, but it's unique that people take in this so much and they utilize it in that fashion, you know? I mean, bands and the fans, it's this like mixture of things. It's got to happen. You know, it needs to be there because without one, there isn't the other, and vice versa. You know, like without fans, there is no band. Without the band, there is no fans. And I think as time goes on and you're playing all this stuff and all these people come out and they explain how your music has moved them or your lyrics or whatever, it starts to show you a little bit more about the element of what you've created and presented to people to bring them out of whatever dark space they were in, you know, through life. Something happened, something going on in the world, whatever natural political bullshit, whatever that's going on, you know. But music is the escape to get away from all of that, and then they define you as being one of those elements. And it becomes something unique, you know. It becomes unique between you and the fans. So it's like, even playing like in a live setting, it's really important. Like, tonight was good, but I always like shows when there's no barricade and people are more there. Right. Because the impact of band and the fan working together, and it's like cycling through, it makes it so much more intense. But I mean, we'll work with this, but definitely like a smaller place and it's really chaotic and everybody's all up in your face and it's crazy, that's really impactful.
Do you miss anything of the early years of the band? Now, you know, music industry changed, the scene changed.
Oh yeah, a lot of things have changed. A lot of, you know, everything from how it went from, you know, CD to digital media and everything like that. And what the thing is now, and I tell people a lot of times, when I get home from a tour, I like cut all the business away from me for like weeks. Because I think being in a band, and if you have to deal with how the business runs, it'll kind of eat into your head and kind of make you think differently about things. And so sometimes when you get home, you cut everything away so you can kind of get back to yourself. And you can kind of go through the cycle and then jump back into it again. Because music industry is good in aspects, but it does have its negative aspects. It's definitely dog-eat-dog kind of world. So I think you have to pull yourself away from it sometimes so you can kind of move forward and keep doing what you like. Because I think I've seen it through years where bands get corrupted by how the whole system runs and then bands fall apart. And I really believe it's a thing you need to kind of step away from and kind of delve into yourself and whatever, live a regular life, you know. I mean, we're all human. You know, a lot of people see bands out there and they put them on this pedestal, but they're just as human as a fan that's coming to the show. And you can only deal with so much within this tier. So it's like you have to kind of step away and get your humanity back before you can delve back into it again. Because it's so weird and corrupt at times.
And what are your expectations for the future of the band?
Expectations?
Yeah. Where do you see GoatWhore in 10 years?
I don't really try to like lock that into place, you know. I just kind of go along, and wherever the road leads, we kind of take it. You know, I don't want to try to control it too much. Because like I said, like the whole aspect before we were saying, I think if you try to control it too much and it doesn't come out in the way you perceived it, then it starts to affect you. So I think at one point you just let it flow and let it run its course. You know, if it does this, then it's a bonus. If it doesn't, then no big deal. It's no like grievances. So you just kind of do it and you have a good time and you let things flow out.
But we can expect a new album, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not
New album.
we're not
tours.
like not writing because yeah, of course, yeah. I'm just saying like about the
No,
cycle
I know,
of it,
I
you
know.
know.
I
But
just
yeah,
wanted
no, like,
to make sure.
we go home and we get together and we throw ideas back and forth and we do things like that. And yeah, it's definitely like that for sure.
So you're already brainstorming about the next album?
Yeah, we're always
Yeah,
brainstorming.
always.
Yeah. It's just when we get on tour, we don't really focus
Yeah.
on a lot. But when we get home, a lot of ideas are thrown around. Like Sammy has a lot of riffs, and he starts throwing them around to everybody, and we start throwing ideas around. But that process is always going on, no matter
And
what.
you can find inspiration on touring on the road, right?
Yeah. I mean, even when I'm on the road, like there's things I read and then it conjures ideas and I'll jot down lyrical ideas and kind of build off of it. So that whole writing idea is there. It just kind of works underneath everything else that's going on at the time until we get home. Like we'll get home from a tour and we're like, all right, everybody, we need a break from each other for like 2 weeks. And then we all kind of come together and then we start throwing all these ideas around. So it's like, it's human nature. We need time sometimes.
Then thank you for the interview.
No
Enjoy
problem.
the rest of the tour and all the other tours.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.